Dr. Travis Fox, thank you so much for coming on the Inner Edison Podcast. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to it. A long time coming. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I guess
Not at
someone
all.
I was looking the other day. I was like, man, I'm out I'm out 6 months and I still have 50 some people who want to come on, which is great, but it's a good thing to have, but I hate when I record somebody and it's 8 to 20 weeks out before you can get it even on actual, and because then by the time that they actually tell me to reorder, because what I do on the podcast, I'll come back and I'll do your opener and close, but that's when we're ready to produce it, and it's to remember, so I have to go back to the show and see if there's anything else I want to do, or say it the right way. But anyway, let's get on to you. All right, so how did you have a doctor in front, so I assume there's that PhD doctor.
Yes, yeah, I'm the other kind. I didn't want to go to medical school. Wasn't that
That's
smart?
okay.
Or patient.
Doctor means teacher anyway, right?
Yep, that's the etymology of the word. Fact.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't understand that. I do. So did you always want to get your PhD or doctorate, or was that something the school always in the cards for you? Because when I was in high school, I was told I was going to amount to nothing, and I'd be a blue collar worker my whole life. I have my bachelor's and master's, and I've owned businesses and other stuff. So I bring that up because that's what I was told.
Right. Mine's slightly different. I was actually, according to my father, who put a golf club in my hand when I was 4.5 years old, I was to be a PGA Tour professional golfer. And that was my entire adolescence, all the way through high school. Even in my yearbook, everybody knew I was going to the tour. And what they didn't count on is that I have this little thing called perfectionism, part of OCD, because I'm slightly on the spectrum myself. And the problem with golf is it's an impossible game to perfect, if I can quote my compadre, Bob Rotella. And I actually got into becoming Dr. Fox originally, or so I thought, was to fix myself, to fix my golf game. I went from, hey, this is my career track. I know exactly where I'm going, purpose, passion. I know I'm headed, to right turn, Clyde, and had an emotional break, cracked, and said, well, how do I fix me? And back then, aging myself, we didn't have sports psychology. We didn't have a lot of the information we have now via the internet. And so I went, well, like any normal person would do, and said, well, let's go to the psychology department. How are we going to pull my head out of my rear end? What the heck is going on, man? I'm on the golf course and I feel confident. Two holes later, I'm over there going, why did I wear these shoes? And, almost emotionally losing it because I couldn't pull the club back because I was afraid of a bad result. And that opened up a door, which is how I arrive here some 34 years later, that really my original impetus was I didn't want people to go through what I went through. Don't spend your entire life perfecting something or quasi-perfecting something only to have it unravel because there's a mental shadow, because we don't teach people how to deal with integration. Even to this day, we still really don't. And that became my mission. And then from there, what I realized was, hey, wait a minute. The letters, as you so eloquently said a moment ago, don't mean anything. What matters is the application thereof. And so, my mentor and master, who was incredibly brilliant and quasi-father figure to me, who I sat under for 15 years, really invited me to go to stage and to take it bigger. And so I took it all across the country, took it around the world. I've had the pleasure of being over 67 countries now. And seeing and having grown up outside the United States, I started to realize, hey, wait a minute, we're all relatively the same. Culture's influential, religions may have an influence, and obviously mother, father, patriarchals, and maternals have influence. But the reality is, we don't have a blueprint. We don't have a living blueprint. We have this quadratic model that you would know is like, some of all the personality tests you've heard all the way back to the great Carl Jung. But they really just kind of stamp you and say, well, Ed, this is who you are. You're this, you're that, and you're stuck, and there's your strengths and your weaknesses. And I'm like, well, that makes no bloody sense, because everyone says you're a spiritual being having a human experience. I'm like, well, that means then there's something more powerful than your brain going on. Now, you call that whatever you want, soul, chi, center, spirit. I'm not here to tell you what to call it. But if there's something more powerful going on, then how come we're not teaching from that perspective first? And I don't mean that you need to go to an organized structure, although that's helpful for some people. Talking about truly understanding what's going on internally and how do I transform myself? Because we transform. Ed, we mutually agree, and all of us listening here to Inner Edison and the podcast, who we were when we were 15 and who we are now are most likely radically different. And the reason that is we
one would hope so.
Yeah, right. And
hold on, Dr. Travis.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm on radio, and on radio, I didn't tell you this in the beginning, but we tell our people who come on, you got a minute to answer. And then, because it's a conversational podcast, I understand you're on the spectrum, so it's hard to get a word in once you get going, right? I mean, that's how we are. Most business people are on the spectrum. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in business to begin with.
Right.
I was at a thing once and they said, okay, everybody has this, raise your hand. If you have this, keep it up. If you have this, keep it up. And then they're all like, okay, well, you're all on the spectrum and you're all and it's so true. That's how we are. And I want to have a conversation, and I like what you're saying there, but I've had some questions I wanted to ask. And of course, I'm the complete opposite. I'll just key in on the current one instead of the one I wanted to talk about 2 minutes or 3 minutes ago. But I want to go back to what you're saying about how you went to psychology to fix it. It's amazing. I was at an event last week, and the lady's on the stage, and she is a psychologist, and she helps business people, whatever. And she says all these statements. I'm like, no shit. No wonder you of course you had a problem. That's why you went in psychology. People who don't have problems don't go in psychology. They don't use that thing to fix themselves. I get, and I mean, not all, but what would you say? 80% of them, at least?
All of them. I don't think that. I think anybody who says less is either out of touch or delusional or has power issues. But that's my personal opinion.
I was trying to be nice. Sorry.
I know, that's okay. Yeah. Please don't. It's accurate.
But that's how else do you find yourself? But going through and studying something, and then realizing, oh, by the way, there's more of me out here. I can go help fix other people like myself. And that's kind of what I'm hearing. So go back to you're on stages and everything. So I want to back up so people understand. So so what is your background exactly? So you're Are you a hypnotherapist?
I'm a hypnotherapist, and I have a doctorate in psychology. I'm not a licensed psychologist. I don't practice anymore. I do just straight on coaching and teaching, because my entire methodology, to your point, was I found in that space there was some heavy constriction opportunities where you really can't dive into the more of the self. And for me, that was the only thing that was interesting. And so that's how I arrived here. My entire work has always been around really what I would call, spiritual psychology. It's like, hey, kids, at the end of the day, the great Alan Watts said it best. We're all marching straight towards death, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it. The question is, get to it, mate. Really, what do you want? Not what society tells you, not what you think you want, but what do you really, really want? And the way that I ask that, and I'll ask all of your listeners, and I'll stop there, is, hey, if you only had 30 days left to live and you knew it, you knew you were leaving the planet, would you be doing anything you're doing in your life right now? And if any part of your answer is no, then get to it, man. Because guess what? Death is non-negotiable. And it's not this negative thing, but it's something that is transitionary, puns intended. So if we are a transformational, transitionary creature, why not start now while you're still here, and then have the opportunity to experience everything that you wanted to experience, whatever that may be.
Yeah, it's like that song, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die.
Well said. I think maybe I should call you Dr. Hey, Dr. Ed, help me out.
No, it's just,
I do want to clarify one thing, though. I want to be crystal clear. I don't fix anybody. And I think anybody who says that it's a great misnomer. And it's something I had to learn. One, I'm not broken, and neither are you. And nobody listening to this is. What we don't have is a blueprint to understand ourselves better and all the different personas that are running around. And I think that's a key point.
I always like when they, all the answers are already inside you. You guys just help us figure out those answers that are already there.
Yeah.
Or the question that will work for those answers that are already there.
Precisely.
And this is years of therapy. I'm just kidding. It's just like I said, I've been on radio since 2018, interviewing people and in podcasts and everything else. And I've done tens of thousands of hours and other stuff with this. It's just like you learn certain things, and then you can pick certain things up. And I was in sales since I was 27. So I would ask questions, and I need to know why people buy and why they don't buy and certain things. And it's the same thing you need. You talk to people and go, why are you doing, why am I doing this? Well, let's find out,
Right. And not even so much the why. Why makes me nervous? Because it always starts with the because answer, right? And because we rationalize, justified. Right? How about this? How's it serve you? How does it serve you to continue that behavior or not initiate said behavior or mental mindset or physicality, whatever it is we're approaching? How does it serve you? Ask that question, because there's an emotional driver down there. And often I've found in my experience that we stay in the cognitive space way too long. We need to get past conscious and ultimately past subconscious. I know that's going to sound like an odd comment, but beyond that, there's this emotional traumatic level, right? This is where everything's driven from, and it's called a thematic or a theme. That's the theme that's driving us. Like whether, you can use a pain pleasure pendulum if you like. That's great. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there's a theme that drives you. And that's what those emotions that are fueled your subconscious. Your subconscious creates belief structures, hierarchical values, and then instructs your conscious mind how to see the world. And that's how you see it. Right, wrong, or indifferent. There's no judgment in it, just how you choose to see it. The question is, do you have the means, blueprint of understanding who is inside you driving that? Which persona? I'm not saying you're schizophrenic or DID. What I'm saying is we all wear masks. The person who says they're not wearing a mask, that's the first person you need to talk to.
Or run away from.
Pretty much. Yeah, I was doing my effort to be polite. But to have a blueprint to move through that. And I think that's really where we start to understand integration is the key. Because the answers are inside you, correct, but they've been fractionalized by this thing called birth into the planet. Got fractured, now let's put it back together.
And everything that's happened to you at this point, how does that affect
precisely
those things and people
and not happen to you?
Right. And what can you learn from, and I learned a long time ago, did this happen to me or this happened for me? And if you ask that question that way, everything that happens to you is to help you some way or whatever. You just have to figure that out. You just haven't found that out yet. And that, because here, prime example, I'm in the mortgage industry and it got destroyed in the last 2 years. And I was mad the first year because I had a huge team I built and everything else. And then it was like, I watched somebody, yeah, exactly. And who wants to rebuild again and again and again. And the question was, finally, I was listening to somebody and they were talking about somebody else and how they always said, did this happen to me or did this happen for me? And this was somebody who was in a wheelchair who couldn't really, it was paraplegic and the whole 9 yards. And if they can come up and ask those questions, why can't you ask that question?
Well said. Yeah, and some of my best teachers are some people that we would deem here as a macro comment, the most unsuccessful people in the world. For example, I got the opportunity to live with the Hadzabe tribe for 5 days, which is the oldest nomadic tribe in Tanzania, in Africa. I got to live with them for a week. No running water, no bathroom. They're nomadic. You have to hunt for everything. Yet they were the happiest people I've met. They broke out for song for no bloody reason. I was like, wow, I've never known that kind of bliss about things I thought was interesting. But it was a powerful lesson of what is interesting, what's happiness, what's bliss mean, what does peace internal mean? Because like you, Ed, I've had success and I've had failure, and I was equally miserable and equally as happy in both. Well, that's odd. You're supposed to be, happy in success, and when failure is miserable. No, that wasn't the case. So I started to ask those deeper questions of like, well, what's interesting? What is the thematic that drives one's life? And that's the thing I think when we all get to look at, and people use this term, I think often, get to look at shadow, but they use it as a macroized comment. Well, shadow, you got to work on your shadow. Well, great. Well, there's a whole bunch of aspects to your shadow. It's not the singular thing, at least in my humble opinion. And so the question is, where do you look? How do you identify it? What's its thematical motivation? And what is it seeking to integrate to teach you, right? Because shadow is a teacher, but I think it's been marginalized and somewhat victimized as it's the thing that comes and destroys your life. It only destroys your life if you ignore it. But the only creature on this planet that can ignore half of itself and function is a human. You don't see any other creature going, well, I don't feel like being a lion today. I think I'm half giraffe. You don't see that. So when we start looking at that must mean there's something more powerful going on. That's where the spiritual aspect comes in. And then we get to ask ourselves, really, not just who am I? It's more of what are you beyond all the labels? For example, when people say, Travis, what do you do? I can say that. Or I'd say, well, I am that feels deeply. I am that identifies patterns. That's more of a spiritual answer than, hey, I'm Dr. Fox. I went to school. I did this. I've worked with X amount of people. Yeah, that's all great. But is that really who you are? Is that who you're personifying yourself to be to make it palatable in the social structure? Okay, that's fair too.
All right, so now I'm going to ask you, just because I'm curious, who's your perfect client? Or what they call these days avatar, which I'm like, that's just like niche. Oh, I'm not niche. I'm sorry. It's like hack, overused and ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. So who are you? So with what you've done, because do you do hypnotherapy? And the reason I asked this is I was at an event last weekend and there was 3 of them in the audience at this huge, and I got lucky. I got it as a guest there, expensive mastermind. And I'm talking really expensive, and they're in there and they do really well. And they talked about it because I do another podcast called Helping the Brave. I'm really big on veterans because I am one, and I'm doing all this stuff for them. And they're like, well, with the PTSD, we should help you with the hypnotherapy and all this other stuff, which is a great idea. But my question is, are you still doing that type of stuff, or is that just something you use in your everyday practice?
It's if I can quote the famous line from Top Gun Maverick, it's not what I do, it's just who I am. It's so in part of my DNA. I've been doing it now for 34 years, and the difference is, to your comment, I think those are nice. I think, unfortunately, hypnotherapy even now has been put in a box of it just fixes everything. I'm like, it doesn't. It can help, most definitely, but there are layers deeper than that. And even myself, when I touted the flag, hypnotherapy is the way to go, and I did, and it has powerful mechanisms. But when you really start diving deeper, it's past hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is not wave this magic wand because you're on TikTok and Instagram and you see a 3-second reel and someone goes, they're asleep, and all of a sudden, bang, they're fixed. I'm like, yes and no. But that requires a very particular person, to answer your question. That, in my humble opinion, that's what's called a hypernambulist or a somnambulist. Those are 6 and 7 level deep into hypnotherapy that can do that. However, there's a lot easier way to do that, and let's just look at the personas and understand who you're being. That's it. It doesn't require hypnotherapy. Once you understand that, you can do it. It's a different version of it, and it's much more fun. It's not like, hey, look deep into my eyes, Ed. You're going to feel great. My eyes have nothing to do with it. Clearly, I'm wearing readers. That ought to give you a clue. I can't see 3 feet in front of my face, right? It has nothing to do with the watch. It has nothing to do with everything, the Svengali effect or the hypnoidal wheel. Those are all things that are really a technique called eye fixation technique. And it's really simple. If I get your conscious mind locked for a couple of minutes, you'll drop into alpha state. If you drop into alpha, you're suggestible. No different than watching a commercial. That's it. It's nothing more than that. You do it when you drive your car. But there's other ways to do this that are much more engaging and transformational, in my humble opinion. But also, don't give your power to somebody else. Hey, Ed comes to me and says, hey, Travis, will you hypnotize me? Yeah, but I'm then giving you a program based on what I think you said to me in the interview, what I think is going to be best for you. Who the hell am I to tell you what's good for you? You are. So what if I showed you the way to do it and you do it for yourself, but you're consciously and unconsciously aware of it, meaning you're bringing the unconscious to the conscious, as the great Carl Jung said, bring that to the conscious, otherwise you'll call it fate. And I'm marginalizing, paraphrasing that. Parallel, but you get the point. I'm like, there's much more fun way to do it. So hypnotherapy for me has evolved over the years now, how I do it versus what I used to do back in the day, which is, much more traditional style, but it was very advanced even then. But my concern is that it always becomes sensationalized. This is probably where the era we live in. But I also grew up in a different era, so I have a slightly different version.
So did I. It just don't look like it.
The
reason I brought that up is because for my Operation Firewalk, which is for veterans and first responders, we have a whole event, and in the night we do a Tony Robbins style firewalk. And the reason I call it Tony Robbins style is the guy that helps me. He worked for Tony Robbins for 22 years as his fire guy, as a chief. So and these people are saying, well, you need to have them before, because he gets them in the thing, focused to walk, right? The guy, amazing. He's amazing at it. And they're like, well, you should have them close their eyes and then look at, think about whatever that is to help them solidify that moment even more. And that's why that whole thing was brought up. And is that something that you would agree to, or is there something that we could do to help with that? Are you following my question?
I would agree to it with the caveat that, that's a wonderful thing called distractionary techniques, right? If I distract your conscious mind of what seems as a perceived threat, you'll become something else.
No, I'm talking about solidify the moment, like whatever they're trying to get through. Like my daughter walked it last year and she didn't have fear about doing something. My grandson did at 7, but he was just jazzed that he walked across, hot coals. But she turned it and changed her life. And the question is there a way we can make it to where it's more impactful for them? Is that what my real question is.
Absolutely. Having done those experiences myself and hosted a few back when I was young, the problem I've found with those things is they become very focused on the experience itself, meaning walk across the fire, right? I did it, like you were just talking about a moment ago. To bring that into an equation, I think you need to create an associative link to it and why you're doing it. And so I want to conquer my fear. What fear? Why? What's the outcome when you conquer it? And again, Tony does a great job of that. Don't get me wrong. He's really made that firewalk famous. It's been around for a long time, obviously, way before Tony. But he really did a great job bringing it. So it's really tying those things together. But again, often that is we're in an altered state of adrenaline. I'm in a peer pressure mode. I got to get across this fire because I'm facing this obstacle. Okay, it's an analogous of what maybe is going on internally or externally, but is it really transformational? For most, my experience, it's not transformational. It's a cool ass experience, but it's not always transformational. That's nice. I mean, great. But also so skydiving.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll pass on skydiving. I don't jump out from the
Right.
plane.
Right. Yeah, I'm with
My
you.
son did, but he's a snowboard fanatic. I was a
Uh,
snowboard person, but not a fanatic. I enjoy
yeah.
going down the mountain, but not across different things.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. No, I just because I walked twice, right? We did our first thing was last year when it was a 2-day event. So of course I had to walk both days. And was it transformational? Not for me, but I'm also in a different part of my life and I've been through so much different things now younger. And if I was dealing with something majorly and I could then associate with whatever I was dealing with the fire and say, okay, this is what I'm focusing on. The fire is that once I get through there, that means I can be on the other side of it and work through it. That could be, whatever those reasons are. It worked for my daughter. And again, I have vets who came to me afterwards and they're like, this is what it did for me. I did not want to walk. I did it. And then it allowed me to deal with my PTSD and other stuff I probably wouldn't have dealt with if it wasn't for that. So it's going to be depending on each person.
Depending on each person, the phrenology, the psychosomatic response mechanism, on why you're doing it, how you're doing it, what's it for, what's its intention. You're right. It's a multi-layer approach. I think the biggest and probably most profound experience from that I've watched over the years when people do that and watching people go through it is, how about this? Is you truly have control over your body until you realize that you don't. And the firewalk is one of those mechanisms where you're inviting yourself to go into something you have been trained since birth is bad. Fire burns. Don't touch the stove. Ow, right? Don't do that. You see fire as an all-consuming experience. And walking on hot coals to your feet, which are extraordinarily sensitive, and also part of your grounding mechanism here to planet Earth is how we ground. Whether you're doing that from a reflexology point of view or an Ayurvedic point of view, you're still in a grounding mechanism. And walk on fire creates a very unique aspect. But I also think that it really shows, especially to your vets, and I'm a huge vet supporter, that's massive to me. We live in this beautiful country because of them. End of discussion. Period. So,
and we have all these rights because of us, and
Amen.
and that right also means I can be a dumbass and I can be not a dumbass. Whatever that works out to wherever you want to put that in your life. Yeah, exactly. You have the right to do things, freedoms that you don't have in other countries.
Correct. So to me, they deserve the utmost of respect and ego. And whenever I see them, I always stop and say, thank you for your service. Thank you for the life that you've given me, even though I don't know you, right? But I know you because I know what you stand for, right? So for me, that's important. But to that point, that allows, as an example to your vets, walking across fire is a perfect example of, hey, you can regain control of your body again from the PTSD, which is where the body is emotionally seeking generally to vomit all of the stuff that they've had to endure. And most of it is inhumane. It's incredible, especially in wartime. Again, I'm preaching to the choir, right? I've never had the opportunity to wear the uniform, so I'm not going to take that stance that I have.
And Travis,
I see that, yeah.
And I see it from the other side because our events for veterans and first responders, because both of them are committing suicide at the same rate right now. And what I did my first year doing, I was talking to somebody else. And I said I was so adamant veteran only, but then when I started looking at my service and who I relate more to is first responders, because I was a corpsman. I didn't go in combat zone, but I did see some pretty weird, some people, I still see those things. And so according to my people I've been talking to, I have PTSD because I can have vivid memories of everything. But that's not the whole podcast that we're doing today. Wasn't supposed to get on this part of it. It was just supposed to be about how really mental stuff can really mess you up and you need to have control over it somehow.
Yeah. And I would offer you, you're absolutely right. It's all mental. I mean, there's an old Japanese saying, and I don't know where the credit came from, so forgive me, but it's, if I pull out my sword and lop off your head, problem solved, but you still exist. How is that possible? Then you start to ask yourself a deeper question, because again, I think the biggest challenge we deal with is a sequencing issue, which is really what led to it really is the thematic of my life, which is we've always been taught mind, body, spirit in that order. Here's the problem. Mind can't solve itself. So it's mental masturbation. You're constantly in this loop of trying to figure out your mind with your mind. But your mind knows your tricks. It knows your pitfalls. It created them. So that's like asking the treasure map designer, hey, where's the treasure? Just kidding. So we start with a sequencing issue. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why don't we start with the deeper aspect first of, hold on, because PTSD now has, and I use this with utmost respect for all of our veterans and first responders, is it's overused. It's overplaced now. Everybody's got PTSD. I got PTSD because I didn't get enough hugs from my dad. Okay, great. Does that mean I got PTSD? Well, de facto, yeah. It's messed up some of my relationships with men in life because I don't know how to have intimate conversations. But does that PTSD, or is that just a function of my environment that I have not transformed yet? I think it's the latter, personally. PTSD is bona fide, no doubt. But it is generally for situations like we've talked about, going all back to World War II and World War I most prolifically, and now obviously now up to current day. But the whole point of that conversation is, hey guys, let's get to something deeper, because the truth is, again, as I said, we're all marching straight towards death. The question is, have you really lived yet? Have you really lived yet for you? For you. And ask yourself that question. And it's brutally honest to ask yourself, hey man, if I only had 30 days left, would I be doing any of this stuff I'm doing? The answer 9 times out of 10 of people I've experienced and I coach, no. And I go, then what are you waiting for? And then I get the list of justifications and rationalizations of why. Well, I've got bills, I got this, I got that. I'm like, okay, great. What does that have to do with anything? Because in 30 days, you're gone. What happens now? Have you integrated with yourself? You've made peace. Have you said thank you for the people that taught you, whether you like how they taught you or not? Have you gone and seen the things you wanted to see? Because we live on this beautiful theme park called Planet Earth. And it's got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And go see it. And we don't do that. We really go into a social hypnosis.
Yeah, go see the 63 national parks in the United States.
Precisely.
I had no idea that they were there. 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I went to where did I go? We hiked in Utah at Zion and then Bryce, and huge. And then after that, we're like, okay, we're going to hit all 63 national parks. We live in California, so I've already hit Yosemite and a bunch of other ones. And I lived in Colorado as a kid, so I hit a bunch of those Rocky Mountain ones. But there's so many things that we haven't seen that we could see, and we focus so much on other stuff. One thing back to the PTSD, I was a workaholic and exerciseaholic, and because I didn't deal with some things I should have just easily dealt with, but I didn't know at the time that's what I was doing. I see that people my age range weren't taught certain things, and we've been through a lot of stuff that young kids these days have no idea. But and if you go back about the wars, World War I, World War II, it took months to get home on a ship. So those guys dealt with stuff. People who were in prison camps during Vietnam didn't come out with the major PTSD or mental stuff they thought they had to, because they were in there for a very long time and they dealt with it while they're in there. I've talked to many guys, interviewed them on my podcast, and they're like, we laughed the hardest we've ever laughed in that stupid Hanoi Hilton than I've ever laughed in my life. But people who have PTSD were only in there 2 weeks before they were released, kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I would offer you that's a beautiful recollection, because I would offer you what's the common thread there? Time. How they viewed time. Because we don't view time when we're young, and you and I seem like we're in the relatively the same age bracket. I'm like, we had all the time in the world. I'm like, yeah, but when you pass 50, you start to realize the days ahead are a little shorter than the days behind, and time shifts for you. But when you're in an isolated experience, which is what monks do, which is why we go on these retreats, is we get crystal clear about time. How am I actually spending my time? Because we're so frivolous with it. I've been guilty of it too, where I'm like, man, I'll get to that later. Don't worry about it. I can make up for it. I'll just, I'll start this new venture. I'll do that. Yeah. And based on what guarantee exactly? So
I'll rest really when I die.
Yeah. That's my favorite one. I'll get to it then. Right. Okay. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, guys, let's view time differently. And that's why that question is such a powerful question. And I'll cite a personal story with it. Is my father, Air Force, fighter pilot, served in Vietnam, 22-year retired. 2019, they come to him and say, hey, Mr. Fox, you've successfully beat kidney cancer. Congratulations. Here's the bad news. You have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. You have 30 days left to live. And on the 29th day, gone. So the irony of me being, and I didn't know that. I didn't find out till my father passed 2 weeks later that he was already gone. He decided not to tell me. He wanted to go out on his own terms, which I respect. But during that time, I'd been teaching for 20 years. Hey, if you only had 30 days left to live, and here it shows up in my own personal world. I'm like, wow, what a great lesson, Dad. If you only had 30 days left to live, is that how you wanted to go out? Okay, that's your choice. I accept it. Man, thank you for showing me exactly what I don't want. This is exactly what I would do. And I tend to operate in my brain. People go, you got to plan 3 to 5 years. Man, that's nonsense. Cut the crap. You can't predict 3 to 5 years from now anymore. You can predict 3 to 5 minutes. It's insane. It's a mental masturbation sought for comfort more often than not, or the safety mechanism. How about this? Put it 30 days out. If I only had 30 days left to live, would I be doing anything I'm doing in my life right now? What part of your brain objects to that? And start looking at that integrational sequencing. What part of you says go for it? And then start looking at those excitement levels. Is it just pure adrenaline, or is it something you're truly passionate about? And if I may borrow, from military, it's about passion, purpose, mission, and vision. And the team you're going to journey with, because no man or woman is self-made. Anybody who says they are is just, beyond narcissistic, illusionary. You're not. So where are you going to spend your time? Because those are the people who are going to show up at your funeral and stamp on your, on your coffin or not. So really look from that point of view. But it's brutally honest, but it does put things in perspective, and it gets all the nonsense that we tend to get involved in. It minimizes it, because you go, this is a waste of time. What am I doing here? What are we doing, guys? Let's go. Let's go climb Everest. Let's go really face something that's intense, right? And when I climbed Kilimanjaro, it changed my life. I'm not a mountain kid. I have zero experience climbing. I should have died up there. What the hell's I doing up there? But it changed my life.
You were dying
19,000. I was 19,000 feet. God showed up and said, "You willing to die for it?" But he wasn't talking about the mountain, although I thought that. I found out later what he was talking about was my ego, and it's still dying to this day.
Yeah, I'm just talking about that high up you are out.
Oh yeah. And that's not even Everest. That's another 10,000 feet. I'm like, no, I'm out. Travis is an ocean kid.
And that's a lot. I mean, a work and other stuff. Have you put a book out, 30 Days to Die or something like that?
No, my last book was called Architect That, Building Your Business from Leading the Bottom Up. And I do talk.
I know, but I think you should write that book. If you just a quick one, 30 days out. You only have 30
days. Only if you agree to give me the foreword.
Of course.
Deal. Yeah, my latest book just came out 2 weeks ago called Mystic Personas, The Reawakening, and it actually walks you through the Mystic Personas.
Yeah, I think that's great. But if you want to get more people to do something and change their life, I think that would be one to get to everybody else, because I see what you do and I think it's great. But all you've ever, since we've been on here, I don't know, 10 times you said if you had 30 days or less to live, how would you live your life? So it sounds to me like that's how your book should be. Your next book should be that one.
I received that. Thanks, man. Thanks for the reflection. And that's what good conversation's about, right?
Well, we always see in other people what they don't see.
Of course.
Because it's easier for us to tell somebody else what to do than to look at ourselves. But most of the time, and I don't mean that wrong, because
no, it's fact.
Because I did that a long time ago. One of my coaches was like, what do you do? I need you to, and I'm like, I don't know anymore. I told him, I said, I've been in the mortgage industry forever. I'm on talk radio now, and I'm doing multiple podcasts. I do interview people all the time. And he's like, you don't see it, do you? I go, no. He goes, yeah, you tell people stories across multiple mediums now. It's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I do. But I didn't know that at the time. Or I didn't focus on that. I just focus on, I like asking questions that normally at a dinner party, my wife would be squeezing my leg to tell me to shut up. Right? I mean, I can ask anything.
I've been accused of that a few times.
Yeah. And I ask people, I want to know why people think the way they do, vote the way they do, think that, and that's not saying they're wrong. I just want to understand why they think that way. Because if I can understand that, then I can understand human nature better and ask better questions. Yeah.
I mutually agree with you. One of the things that changed my life was I got tired of, the superficial questions. Hey, Ed, what do you do? How many kids do you have? And okay, what's the one thing you haven't done yet in this life? Let's start with the basics. What's this one thing? Tell me about that. What's the one thing you wish you hadn't done up to this point? If you have a regret, what is it? But I find that most people don't want to talk that conversation. So, they say as you get older, your group gets smaller. I think it's because your conversations get deeper, right? But I think now we live in an era where people are finally, to your point, we're starting to ask those questions at the onset of, hey man, what's the point of this for you? What are you really interested in? Why are you here? Yeah, I understand what you do. Great resumes are resumes, and those are all powerful to a certain degree, but it's the person behind the resume that's interesting. And I'm like you. I find humans interesting because beyond that, the rest of the time you're spending time in nature, listening, because nature doesn't just like overtly talk. It talks, but you have to be very, very quiet to hear it. Something I was not good at when I was young, especially when I was on stage, because I heard noise all the time. It was just this constant, distraction. But now, to your point, having been to Zion, and I didn't go to Zion either until 2020 and COVID, and I was trapped there. I'll tell you, it was by design at a greater level. But when I went there, I went, there's nothing to talk about. Just be, stare at it, and be in awe, AWE. Something I think that, I'm constantly walking the line of, I'm in awe most of the time. And I think a lot of us forget our awe as a child and forget, wow, wow, man, we got the best window in town because at night you get to see right through it. It's called the atmosphere, and you get to see what's going on. Wow. Even if we live in the Matrix or this is all a simulation, it's a hell of a simulation. Still in awe. Someone who wrote it, even whether it's real or simulation, still in awe. And I find awe keeps me in that constant state of curiosity, or the theme of curiosity. I think you share that, and I align with you there.
Yeah. And for me, I like Bryce better than Zion. And the
Bryce
reason,
is a trip, isn't it?
yeah, that's why. So to me, Zion just reminded me of Rocky Mountains in California. It's just like I've seen this before, just in a different
It's got water,
way.
it's got hills and trails. I've seen this before somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm an
You got
ex-California
rocks,
kid, so I totally
I
get
can
it.
see where the water levels used to be. I can see all that. Bryce was
erosion.
something I'd never seen before.
No.
Hoodoos
It's a
or whatever
trip.
they're called. Yeah.
Yeah. The depths
I
of
was
the trip. I was the same.
And it was like
Wow.
the first part of it was an 8-mile thing I did there. And it was like the first part was like stopping, taking pictures. Then you get 6 miles into, you're like, that's the same one as that one over there.
That one's orange too, and
Yeah,
that one's white.
I'm done.
Like that
I
one.
just want to finish this. It's all uphill now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I understand that. And that's the thing, that's part of the exploration. And you're right. I love going and seeing the state parks. I was not a state park person until COVID hit, but then I became one because I was like, there's a reason for these things. Let's go check them out. And they were also the only things that were really kind of open, to be honest with you. And Zion exploded during that time. And I said, well, what's this Zion thing? I got to go check it out. And I just started becoming intimately curious again of all the little nuances. And there's a great film from, I think it's 2017, 2016, somewhere in there, called The Fundamentals of Caring, with Paul Rudd. And it's a really cool message of just go see the crazy stuff, like the largest ball of string in the world, or the deepest hole, or go see the, meteor crater. These things that don't seem like they'd be cool, like going to a theme park and riding a ride at 100 miles an hour. Yeah, those are experiences too, but go check them out, because then it'll let you know that this Earth's been around a bit, and we're just a blink of an eye. And to quote that famous song, we're all just, candle in the wind, if I can quote Mr. Elton John, and put that in perspective. And I don't mean to sound doom and gloom. It's actually an invitation to live your ass off. Go, man, get on it. Whatever that is, let's do it. Because I would invite everyone, and I do this every year. I go back and watch Jim Carrey's famous movie, Yes Man. Just say yes to everything. Not everything, obviously, but you get my point.
Yeah. How this happened to us is we were at a table having dinner one day, and we were talking about, my sister called us to come to Reno, all these different things go do. And we were like, can we do it? And this lady next to us was an older lady. And she said, my husband and I were waiting until he retired to go on trips and do things. And he retired and died 30 days later. So she's like, don't wait, do it now. So that's what basically the bottom line. Just do the stuff now. Yeah. Don't wait to do things. Yeah. And so that's why we decided we're going to hit all 63 of the national parks.
I think that's gorgeous. I think that's fantastic. Luckily, when I was younger and we were touring, we would stop and see all the crazy things, Rushmore and the Badlands, and you name it. We just went and saw it. And I think it gave us a sense of, now back full circle, well, what makes this country so beautiful and so unique? And I'm not saying other countries don't have unique things. They do. But this country has everything you want to go check out. And, our vets and first responders make sure that we have it. So go check it out while you got it, man. Do it. Get on there. Even every weekend, just run over and do it. Check it out. You don't have to be gone forever.
I totally agree. Dr. Travis Fox, thanks for coming on the show today. How do people find you? Or do you want them to find you?
Yeah, fair play. Yeah, you can obviously. I'm all on the social medias. Travis Fox 360 across the board. You can easily go to mysticpersonas.com if you want to check us out there and see what's happening, or YouTube channel under the same name. And if not, just reach out. I answer on my own email. Sorry,
my camera just died. I guess it overheated. I didn't have the fan on today, so I apologize. All right, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Stay there, though.